Okay, this is a reaction video by the Nauf YouTube channel. Oh, let me do this. Okay, this is a reaction video by Nauf. 15 things Germans don't understand about Americans. This is kind of interesting. I did one recently about cultural differences between England and, well, not England, between Europe and the United States. And let's see what this word brings us.
Guys, welcome to the Nauf YouTube channel. Now, I have lived in Germany for quite some time now, and I have had a lot of conversations with my German friends about the differences between German and American culture. I've experienced it a lot. I've experienced culture shock coming to Germany, reverse culture shock going back to the States, so this is something that I'm really interested in and really like. A thing that I have experienced a lot.
Yeah, when I went over to Germany, I'll tell you, the first time I got there, now I'd flown all night and arrived at like 9 o'clock or sometime around there in the morning on a Sunday, and I was like a zombie. I was like, seeing everything, I just felt so out of place. But after a couple of days, it started to feel a little bit normal, and I got used to it. But I understand how he felt, the culture shock. And also, once you get back to the United States, I was only there. He lived there, okay? I didn't live there. When I got back, I was like, you know, was I really there? Was I really in Germany? Even though I got pictures that prove it.
Is German people asking me certain things about Americans and the United States. Why do you Americans do this? Why do you Americans have this? Why is it like this in the United States?
And if you're from Germany and you're watching this and you have these same questions and maybe he's not giving the best answers, I'll either add on or fill in the blank.
Today I'm going to address 15 things that Germans just don't understand about the United States. Some things I will explain, some things I will try to justify, and some things I will be right there alongside with you, confused as hell as to why us Americans do some of these things certain ways. So without further ado, let's get into 15 things that Germans do not understand about us Americans.
Yeah, and if you're a German and you don't understand some of these things and we haven't explained it well, please leave a note in the message below, and maybe I'll get into it a little deeper for you if I need to. 5,280 feet in a mile. You pick up this football and you run every single one of them. Remember the Titans. That's on American football.
Not using the metric system. Now, I actually did.
Yeah, I kind of figured out that's what this was about, not about which type of football is appropriate. But yeah, we've never used, as long as I've grown up in the United States, we've never used the metric system. In fact, I know what the metric system is. We just don't use it.
I did a whole video about this on my Nauf Nonsense channel. Now, the United States actually did make an attempt at converting to the metric system in the 1970s, but people and businesses just weren't having it. The consensus was kind of like, this is taking too long and it's going to be too much money to convert all of our stuff to the metric system. So let's just stick with our unique imperial system where there's 12 inches in a foot and 5,280 feet in a mile.
5,280 feet. You pick this ball up, you run every one of them.
Who needs that divisible by 10 simple nonsense? No metric for us.
Yeah, that's true. Whenever you come to the United States, we do not use the metric system, and we're not going to start anytime soon. When we go to your place, we'll use whatever you have. You come to our place, you use what we have.
The same goes for Celsius versus Fahrenheit. Now, I will admit.
Yeah, I ran into that problem when I said it's 90 degrees, and somebody looked at me like I was like, what do you want, living on the sun? No, Fahrenheit, sorry. Had to convert to Celsius. In fact, I did have a very, very brief conversation, very friendly conversation, mind you, when I was talking to my brother, and I said it looks like back home it was 90 degrees, and somebody just overheard that and go, good God, what do they live on the sun?
Celsius makes a lot more sense. Water freezes at 0, boils at 100. For us, water freezes at 32, boils at like 217 or something. I don't even know. But I will say, while I think and know that it is much more logical, I cannot get my brain to switch from Fahrenheit to Celsius. I still, on my phone, keep temperatures in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and that's not going to change. If you grew up American, that's just how you're going to do things. Meal is not complete without chips. Why do we call them fries?
Americans eat chips with a lot of meals, specifically some sort of lunch meals like sandwiches. I remember going
Do Germans not eat as many chips as Americans do?
To Subway with some of my German friends early on, and I was freaking out because the Subway that we went to here in Schwäbisch Hall, they were out of chips. Their rack was cleared out. They hadn't gotten a shipment in. I was freaking out. I can't eat a sandwich without chips, and I think I speak for a lot of Americans there where, you know, we need that crunch. I don't know what it is, maybe being served peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with chips from a young age. It's ingrained in us that we need a side of crunchy chips with many different types of meals. Sticks with me.
Yeah, we grew up on chips. We call them potato chips, but chips nonetheless. And there are many different flavors, but yes, we eat a lot of chips. The best way to ensure that your car doesn't get stolen in the USA is to drive a manual.
Manual cars. I've seen different figures, but all of them ranging to around the number of only 15 or so % of Americans can drive manual cars.
Okay, he's talking about stick shift. Okay, that's what I grew up calling it. I can drive stick shift. I know how to drive stick shift. I learned how to do it when I was about 19 or 20, and I still know how to do it. There's a lot of people in the United States who do not know how to drive stick shift and will not learn. Okay, most cars are now automatic, is what we call them. But yeah, I know how to drive stick shift.
Now, I think this number used to be a lot higher. Both of my parents learned how to drive using a manual car, but in the United States, manual cars have become less and less popular. When you do a driving test, you usually do it with an automatic car, and it is just not commonplace to be learning how to drive manual cars in the United States. And that's why you run into situations like this, me, an American coming to Europe and not being able to drive a manual car for 3-4 years. That's not that uncommon. I actually think it's a great thing that Germans learn to drive with their driving test using a manual car. I think it is better to learn about the engine and how the car works. It's also safer, in my opinion, because you are totally forced to be locked in to your driving. You're focused on the road, focused on switching gears. You can't be distracted trying to mess with the music.
Once you learn how to drive stick shift, it's not, to me, or manual as he says it, it's not too that much. You see it in America, R for reverse, then put it into D for drive, and away you go. Okay, it's just that simple. But when I drove stick, when I drove manual, it's just reverse, first gear, second gear, third gear. Make sure you have in the clutch, and once you know your car, it's just a simple matter of knowing where the point is where you can just literally sit on a hill and not worry about going backwards. It's once you got it, you got it.
Music or text, whereas in an automatic car, it is much easier for a teenager to be distracted by these sorts of things. So I am actually a big fan of the manual car system, and I will say personally, I like driving manual car better now.
Best way to pay for college is yep.
College is incredibly expensive. Now, when I'm talking to Germans, they'll be like, man, I had to pay 250 euros for my university semester this year. It was kind of steep. The average price in the United States,
250 euros.
It's for a public college, four-year college, is $37,400 per year.
Yeah, those professors don't work for free.
For a public college. The average for a
and this is something I agree with Germans on, or basically most Europeans with. You don't need to pay. You shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg for college.
Private college is $47,000 per year. You're looking at about $200,000 if you want to get a private college education, which, in my opinion, in the States, for the most part, those are really the only ones worth going to at this point. The college diploma has become so diluted that I think you really need to go to like an elite school for your college degree to even matter. So you're looking at about $200,000 to get a worthwhile college degree. Don't even get me started. I went to film school for a master's program for 1 semester, and I racked up a nice $30,000 debt there. Speaking of which, if you would like to help me pay off my film school debt, the link to my Patreon is in the description. Lots of fun.
And also, hit like and subscribe for him as well. And hit like and subscribe for me as well, too. But yeah, please.
Behind-the-scenes content, exclusive content on there. We just started a movie club, so we do a monthly movie club and discussion. So, you know, if you want to help chip away at that hefty United States film school debt, you are greatly welcomed.
At least he's asking, and at least he's saying please. Now, again, I'm not sure what this is about. Maybe talking about ugly Americans.
There is this stereotype that Americans are loud.
We can be loud. Not all of us. Some of us know our place in the world. And what I mean by that is that if I'm in another country, I don't want to call attention to myself just because I'm an American. I generally like to keep my head down and nod, smile, and move on my merry little way.
And I'm not going to argue with it. If you saw my video a few weeks back where we went to Heidelberg, I kind of harped on Mikey and the other guys for us being really loud. I feel like, guys, we're just being this typical, stereotypical loud group of Americans.
And if you think Americans are loud, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious about that.
And there's a theory for this. There is a theory for why us Americans are always speaking so loudly and yelling. Now here it is, and if you've watched my YouTube videos, you know this a little bit. Americans have a much larger threshold for what the accepted personal bubble is, okay? So we are typically further away from each other when we
That might be it. That might be
speaking. When you're further away from each other, you need to speak a little bit louder. And this is just ingrained to us, so we have, become accustomed to a certain decibel level of speaking that's probably a little bit more like this compared to a German who's...
It's not always like that. This is the normal way I talk to anybody, no matter how close they are to me. If they need me to speak up, they can tell me to speak up. But I don't run into that problem. But I did tell a story of when I was in line. I had an American couple that was 2 people in front of me, and they're going, "Do you speak English?" And they were screaming like, not everybody, just being the typical Americans that he's discussing right there.
Used to talking to somebody this close because Germans, personal bubble doesn't really exist here, and German people are used to speaking at a softer, quieter tone. That is my theory for why us Americans are quite loud.
Now, also, when I was on a train heading back to Frankfurt, there was I guess a British TV crew. They must have been working in TV because they were talking about TV jargon and who they needed to interview from the English national team. And I swear, I think if you were 10 rows or 10 seats from where we were, you still would have heard this woman without any difficulty. She was really loud, but she was English, not American.
Sports clothes. You can very often tell a group of Americans wandering around in Europe by the way that they are dressed. Oftentimes it'll be things like t-shirts, athletic shorts, or
yeah, you brought maybe t-shirts, athletic shorts, things like that. We kind of do that.
Sweats, baseball hat, sometimes tall white socks, and some Nike shoes. Americans like to dress comfortably. There's a name for this style of dress, athleisure. And actually, I'll link an article in the description here about an interesting article about kind of the development of athleisure and companies that have profited off of it, such as Lululemon, where athletic clothes has become basically normal for day-to-day life. People will put on leggings or yoga shorts or yoga pants or whatever and go about their day-to-day life, go get a coffee, go to a restaurant, go to work.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that we do.
And this is becoming and has become a thing that is not so crazy in the States. Whereas in Germany, not so common. And
it's funny when you get to another country how it's not, you don't pay much attention to what everybody else is doing. Like what are they wearing? What kind of clothes are they wearing? You just wear what you normally would. You act like you're back where you came from. And I think I probably did the same thing when I was over there. I didn't get anybody look at me crazy or anything like that, but it's something you tend to do. You just dress as you normally would.
Since living here, I have developed a habit, actually, of always putting on my nice pants, what I believe are my nice pants, those pants that I wore to Ale and Nikki's wedding. Yeah, those ones. I always put on pants like that when I leave the house. I'm trying to not wear sweats typically when I leave the house unless I'm working out.
And Americans will wear those sweats and things like that if they're like going, like if I'm just going to the grocery store, just going to a convenience store which is right around the block, and you're only going to be there for 5 minutes, just put it on, go there, do it, and then come back, and then you can wear what you want at home.
I don't really have a reason for why us Americans do it. I guess we just like to be comfortable.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with being comfortable, and if everybody else does, again, if you're in the United States, you can do something like that, and nobody's going to look at you crazy. You're not going to get dressed up in your Sunday best just to go and pick up a container of milk. You're just not going to do that. America's most popular sport is a game not of centimeters and meters, of inches and yards. Yeah, I think I mentioned that earlier, American football. Now, I realize in Germany, and my favorite sport is football, okay, what you guys call football. Now, I do enjoy the Bundesliga. I like watching Borussia Dortmund play. I'm waiting for somebody to kick the crap out of Bayern Munich so they aren't always winning everything. But that's, if you're a Bayern Munich fan, I've got nothing against Bayern Munich. I enjoyed when they beat PSG for the Champions League title. But I do like the Bundesliga. There's a lot of Americans that play in the Bundesliga.
American football. Now, you guys know I am here.
I call it throw ball. I don't call it American football because it doesn't make any sense to call it football. I mean, it makes more sense to call what we call soccer football because you actually put foot to ball. And by the way, for all you Bayern Munich fans out there, I'm not picking on Bayern Munich. I do like Thomas Müller. He's one of my favorite players.
Living in Germany because I play American football team for the Schwäbisch Hall Unicorns in the German Football League. There is a sort of cult following and cult fandom of American football here in Germany, but more widespread, I would say that Germans on the whole don't really understand American football now.
Now, I understand that too. I like American football. Don't get me wrong. I just like real football better than I like American football. And most of my friends like American football better than I like real football. But that is what it is. But yeah.
Not much. From afar, it sort of looks like some dumb, violent game where all you do is just run into each other, and it's just sort of nonsense. A
guy was picking on me. They said football or soccer was for girls, and I said, what I told him was, no, what American football is a guy sticks his hands underneath a guy, and they all jump on each other. Okay, so it's not. Some plays in it are amazing. They're tremendous athletes, but yeah, some of it's just the ball's snapped, everybody runs into each other, they all fall down, and then we get back and do it again.
Football is actually an incredibly complicated game with a lot of different rules and schemes, and the game is developing in a really interesting way. I would say the best way to describe it for someone who really doesn't understand the game, it is a mix between rugby and chess. The strategy involved and the stoppage after each play, it is a chess game with rugby-style moves. And
I would have said a mixture between rugby, soccer, and chess because there's a lot of real football in chess because there's elements of that in it as well.
And tackling.
Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you. Thanks again.
Saying thank you too often. I feel like I've run into this issue quite a bit when I'm at a store. Say, for example, I go to a bakery, I ask for a pretzel, they say, okay, a pretzel. I say, ja, dankeschön. And then they go and they put the butter on the pretzel, and then they bring it over and they put it down, and I say, ja, dankeschön. And then they go to the cash register and get my change, and they hand me my coins back, and I say, okay, dankeschön. 3 times I said thank you, and oftentimes I've had this experience where the person working there almost, it's clear they're like, okay, you already said thank you, stop saying thank you so many times. But in the United States...
Yeah, in the United States, that's kind of expected. You generally, if they're doing something for you, once they've done it, you say thank you, even if they still have more work to do. It's just something we do.
That's sort of the more polite way of doing things. You'll thank people continuously. If you go to dinner at somebody's house and they cook you a good meal, you almost thank them throughout. Man, this is so good. Thank you guys.
I thought I actually got pretty good at it because when I was in Germany, the places I went to, if I got something, I just kept my mouth shut until everything was done. Then I said danke and walked on my merry little way, and nobody seemed to mind. So I thought I got it right.
Again, thanks again. No, I really appreciate it. Thanks again. And this kind of overuse of thank you, which kind of goes along with the classic American politeness, I think kind of weirds out Germans sometimes. Yeah,
if it weirds you out, if the German people watching from Germany, if that weirds you out, let us know. So we're not going to reach everybody, but we can reach whoever we can.
Fine with a whole interaction happening, and then at the end, if there's a thanks that is necessary, you can say danke at the end of the interaction, not 7 times throughout.
Yeah, you're not going to see that in the United States. Those are little kids drinking, I'm assuming, a beer.
Drinking age is 21.
Now, yeah, in the United States, it's 21. If somebody saw a kid with beer at that age in any way, shape, or form, there would be problems.
Now, I've linked in the description of this video another video that I think gives a great explanation for why the drinking age in the United States is 21. But this I cannot defend. You can do a lot of stuff when you're 18. You can vote. You can join the military and go to war, but you can't drink a beer. I think that is a bit silly. In Germany, teenagers are oftentimes introduced to beer at age 16. It's legal to buy beer at 16, and then at 18, harder alcohols. I think this system kind of eliminates the novelty and the exciting prohibitive nature of the substance. Because in the United States, oftentimes teenagers are so prohibited from alcohol, by the time they get to college and they're on their own and they're able to drink alcohol, they abuse it and get themselves into trouble.
And that's true, but if you also, another thing is, if you honestly believe that when a kid turns 21 in the United States, that's their first ever beer that they ever had in their life, you're crazy. I'm not saying the parents are out there buying it for them. There's a lot of different ways you can get alcohol and beer in the United States. It's just the only difference between somebody drinking a beer when they turn 21 and when they're not 21 is that they just became legal. They just bought their first legal beer, even though they probably had it many times before.
Whereas when a German is 20 years old, they've been drinking beer for 4 years, and it's really no big deal for them at this point. So I actually cannot defend this 21 drinking age, and I think, 16 might be a little low, but 18 is more reasonable.
Yeah, but if you change that in the United States, people would go crazy. Trust me on that. You take off your shoes at the door. Now, this is something I have heard about Germany, that you take off your shoes when you enter somebody's place. That's something that's optional in the United States. If I go to my sister's place, she requests that you take off your shoes. It's a request. It's not a demand. But if you come to my place, I could care less. I'll just, it's not that big a deal. Now, if you have mud and dirt on your shoes, then I would like you to take it off. But it's not necessarily a requirement for me.
Americans wear shoes in the house. I have no idea why this is a bit more normal for Americans, but it certainly is. Now, in Germany, this is an absolute no-no. You always see shoes are taken off at the front door. You don't wear your shoes in the house in Germany. Germans will have designated house shoes that they wear in the house. But in the States, it's actually a lot.
Again, that's just a difference of cultures.
More common. I think about, when people come to our house, stop by our house to say hi or whatever, have a coffee, typically don't take their shoes off. If you take your shoes off in somebody's house, it's almost like it's a certain level of comfort and familiarity that I don't want to say it's not rude, but it's almost over-familiar in certain situations. Not really sure why this is, because it's pretty dirty to wear your shoes in the house. I mean, think about it. You're You're walking through the dirt and the mud and the grass and everything, and then you come into your house and walk on the carpet. So I don't really know why this is more common, but...
Not necessarily. You know, I've gone out and done a number of things, and I have not stepped in the grass. I've not stepped in the dirt. My shoes are not dirty. Okay, so, but again, even if that similar situation happened and I'm going up to my sister's place, even if I can prove that my shoes are clean, not that I would have a problem with it one way or the other, she still requires you take off your shoes.
It is. Can't explain it.
The drink costs $4.69. You have $5. You can't afford the drink. This must be about the darn sales tax. And the reason that the sales tax is it's different. It's not one big giant tax for the entire state, for the entire United States. It changes. And yes, I can understand that problem right now.
This one drives me crazy. The price you see on the sticker in the store, when you go to check out and actually purchase that item, it's not the same price that you saw. Now, this is the case for most states in the USA, and that is because they add the sales tax on at the end, at the counter, instead of including it in the ticket price. This is an absurd system.
And the tax also always changes, too, and he should know that, okay? The tax doesn't always stay the same.
I have no idea why we do this, probably to trick people into purchasing things.
It is not to trick people. Like I said, the tax rate changes. It's not always the same. And so if you did put it with the tax included, they change the tax, it's easy just to do it up at the register.
It's because it looks cheaper, and then once you bring it up to the counter,
In either event, I wish they just had one flat tax rate to just make it easy and then include it and all that good stuff, or just not even have a tax at all. But that's just the way it is. And again, something that Americans have gotten used to.
Get this tax added on, and at this point, like, screw it, I'll buy it anyway, but I thought it was cheaper, and that's probably my best guess for why this is.
And keep in mind also, the tax is not like astronomical. It's not like if I see something on the shelf for $5 and I go up there, it's going to be $7.59, or if I see something for $10, it's now going to be $30. The tax is, unless you're in California, where they tax the hell out of you and then tax you some more on that tax, it's usually about, couple cents. Like if it's a $5, like $5.15, $5.20, $5.20, something like that. It's generally not that elaborate.
Is the case, but I'm lucky. I live in.
But then again, I still kind of agree with the Germans and the Europeans' way of doing it. I'm not a big fan of sales tax.
Oregon, and we don't have a sales tax. So in Oregon and a few other states, the price you see on the sticker is actually the exact price.
Okay, Oregon doesn't have a sales tax. There's other states that don't have sales tax too, but other states do. Again, the state I live in does.
You pay when you check out. But when I, for example, went to college in Washington, D.C., and I had to deal with this stupid tack-on tax, like, just put it in the price, man.
Doesn't work that way, and you should know that by now.
Pharmaceutical commercials. The United States is one of 2 countries in the world
that has pharmaceutical commercials. I think I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to take a guess. I think Australia is the other,
where it's legal to advertise prescription pharmaceutical drugs to consumers directly. The only other country is New Zealand, and
I was wrong. I was close, but for my Australian viewers, I humbly apologize. It's New Zealand. Okay, I thought it was Australia, but I was in the right area. Okay.
I actually think there's quite a bit of regulation with it. If you watch American TV, I don't know, it feels like 50 to 60% of the commercials are for some prescription drug.
I don't think so. I mean, there are some places like some of the news channels it is, but I don't see a whole lot. Certainly not as many as he seems to think there are.
Where the narrator will say, "Ask your doctor about so and so," and the commercials got people dancing in fields and all this weird footage that doesn't match up with the ale.
And then unless you pause it right there on the screen, you'll see all the things that not available here or this, or you need to check with your doctor, blah blah blah.
That the medicine is trying to cure, and it's always weird. And at the end, they have these really fast, quickly read, horrible side effects that they say with like happy and pleasant voice. It's a strange thing, especially for me.
Yeah, everybody is incredibly happy because they just took the drug. It makes them so happy, and they want to dance around in a field of flowers or field of wheat.
After being in Germany for a while, I get freaked out seeing pharmaceutical drug commercials.
Live to work or work to live.
Vacation days.
Yeah, in the United States, you generally get, now, where I work, you get 3 weeks of vacation, 3 weeks paid vacation. I think you get, your sick time is accrued, so it probably comes out to about 6 days of vacation. And you get care and compassion, and which are, I guess are just personal days, 5 personal days. That's pretty much it. And then you get, there's like 10 or 11 bank holidays throughout the year.
Us Americans, we don't like vacation. We like to work.
Oh, we love vacations. We want more vacations. We want to be like the European model of vacation. We do not like the way it's set up, but that's just how it's set up here.
365 days a year, no time off. What are you, lazy?
That is horse hockey. What he just said right there, that's just how it's set up. That's just what we live by. Okay, look, if I could move to Germany and get a job there and have all the vacation days and all this. I know you guys aren't lazy, but yeah, I like how it's done in Europe a hell of a lot more. I like what's done in the United States.
I'm just kidding. I have come to really love the idea and concept of a work-life balance. Not only because it makes you feel more relaxed and make you feel better, but actually in the long run, it makes you more productive of a worker. In Germany, workers are guaranteed 24 days of paid vacation by the government every year. Guaranteed 24, and a lot of times employees actually get closer to 30. In the United States, the federal government guarantees 0 paid vacation days a year. It is not required at all by employers to give their employees paid time off. Now, that's not necessarily the norm. I think people typically get like between 7 to 14 days off a year, but
well, when he says 7 to 14, he basically means 1 to 2 weeks. Actually, like I said, where I work, it's 3 weeks. Where I used to work, it was 3 weeks. A lot of places I think are moving to 3 weeks, but yeah.
It is not guaranteed by the government, and this is something that Germans just are always shocked about when they hear this. Like, you like, what? You're supposed to just work every day except the weekend the whole year? And you have no guarantee of vacation time? Hashtag no days off.
That'll be $22.99, or it's not including tip or tax. Oh, tip.
Tipping. Now, you tip in Germany.
We are a tipping culture in the United States. In fact, I just did a video about this where you talk about how much you tip, 15 to 20% of the bill. And yeah.
But it is not as big a deal as it is in the United States. In the United States, servers are oftentimes paid $2 to $2.50 an hour by their employer. And the remaining part of their wage is made up from tips. So if you don't...
That's why they come over to you a whole lot. That's why they smile at you. That's why they call you hun. That's why, you know, they're almost always, they're not, it's not like they're hovering over you like a vulture. But they certainly do come to your table. They should come to your table at least 3 or 4 times during your meal, either to ask you if everything's okay, make sure your drink is filled, and make sure everything is okay. And that's basically to get the gratuity.
Tip. They don't get a living wage. This is why it is common to always tip 15% at a restaurant, and if it's good service, you're tipping 20, maybe 25%. This is expected. German tip culture exists, and I would say at a restaurant, maybe you leave about 10% or so, but it's not as expected, and the people who are serving you are actually paid a full wage, and they're not just living off the tips. Now, I actually have a Nauf Nonsense video planned for the history of tipping in the United States. I've been researching it. It's quite interesting. It's very interesting why tipping is so prominent in the USA. So be on the lookout for a Nauf Nonsense video talking about this subject.
Yeah, look out for that. Like I said, please click like and subscribe for him. party in the parking lot. Tailgating. This is what's got to be about tailgating. That is something big at college football games in the United States. That's the first time I ever tailgated, and it's just something that Americans do, having a party in the parking lot before the game. When I was in Germany and I went to the World Cup game, now I didn't realize a World Cup game is different from a Bundesliga game. I get that, but it was pretty much you showed up at the stadium and you went right on in. It's just nobody sitting around having a cookout or a barbecue.
Now, American football fans are diehard crazy fans, but I don't know if it is intense as the European crazy soccer.
Well, you're talking about the ultras that I think he's talking about, or those fans. Yeah, they are crazy. There's no question about it. But I think they're crazy in a good way.
Soccer hooligan fandom. But there's one thing that American football fans have that European soccer fans don't, and that is tailgating. Tailgating is sort of the pre-party of a football game where everyone's in the parking lot, people bring barbecues, beers, lawn chairs, and you essentially have an outdoor party in the parking lot where you pre-game the football game. This is a huge tradition, especially with college football and the NFL. There are some NFL teams that have a very specific wild tailgating culture. For example, the Buffalo Bills Mafia. This is what they do during their tailgates. But this is...
Yeah, I've never done anything like that. I'm not going to start just because the Buffalo Bills Mafia do it.
A huge part of American football culture and tradition is tailgating, and no matter how big or crazy the soccer game is in Germany, people, for the most part, aren't bringing barbecues to the parking lot and having huge parties in the park.
I think that's a slice of Americana. I don't know if they do it anywhere else. Any places around the world, if you do tailgating, let me know. But I think that's a completely American thing. Maybe they do up in Canada as well. But yeah, this is something that's definitely American. I've done tailgating. It is enjoyable. It's fun to do. You get to the game. Like kickoff is like, I don't know, like at noon or something like that, or 3:30, whenever kickoff is, and you're there 5 hours early, just sitting around, relaxing, talking, shooting the breeze, and having a good meal before you go into the game. Of course, then once you get into the stadium, you're buying the popcorn and the Cokes and everything like that. And by the time you get done with everything, when you get back, you're big and bloated. But that's part of the fun.
Parking lot before the game. This is an American thing. All right, guys, that is 15 things that Germans don't understand about Americans. If you've got some other stuff you don't understand about my country and my people, feel free to let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching my YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you next time.
And same for me. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him. And please click like, share, and subscribe for me as well. Yeah, and like I said, same thing. If something that I've explained it's not to your satisfaction, or you want a little bit more information on it, please don't be afraid to ask. I'm more than happy to help out. But again, please click like, share, and subscribe, and have a good rest of your day.